Can I ask you a question, Caroline, very quickly?
Sure.
We're now hearing from constituents in some traditionally red districts right now complaining about what they say is the chainsaw approach and saying that it's been done very sloppily, the cuts to jobs and spending. How do you...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our discussions on the hot topics shaping the news today. Today, we're diving into a heated moment from a recent press briefing. There's been a lot of talk around cutting government waste, fraud, and abuse. But it seems like there's one group that just doesn't want to get behind it: the media. Why? What's the resistance? And why does it seem like some journalists are more focused on defending the status quo than on rooting out corruption? In this video, I'll break down a tense exchange between a government official, Leavitt, and a journalist as they discuss the massive issues of fraud, waste, and abuse in government spending, specifically in the Social Security system. Stick around till the end, and let's get into it. Okay, so let's set the stage. Leavitt, a representative from the administration, is being asked about cuts to government spending, which have been a major part of the current administration's agenda. The question starts out with criticism. Some people from traditionally conservative districts are complaining about the way these cuts are being handled. Leavitt quickly turns the conversation around and points out that despite the complaints from a small handful of people, polling data shows a much different picture. According to a CBS poll, 70% of Americans actually believe the president is following through on his promises, especially the one about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. But then it gets interesting. The reporter asks, what about the fraud? You can tell this is where things are about to heat up. Now, this is where things get a little tricky. Fraud, according to the journalist, is a crime. And they press Leavitt with the question, have you turned over evidence of fraud to the Justice Department? When can we expect indictments? Leavitt's response is clever, though. He doesn't directly answer about criminal indictments right away. Instead, he brings up examples of wasteful spending and points to specific cases of fraud. He mentions a report from the Social Security Administration, which revealed a shocking $71 billion worth of fraud from 2015 to 2022. Imagine that $71 billion, that's a huge problem, right? But here's the twist: this isn't just about cutting waste, it's about addressing systemic fraud within these programs. And yet,
about what they say is the chainsaw approach and saying that it's been done very sloppily, the cuts to jobs and spending. How do you respond to that criticism?
I love how the media takes a few critics when the overwhelming response from the American people is support for what this administration is doing. If you look at the public polling, 70% of Americans, according to CBS, believe that President Trump is delivering on the promises he made. And there should be no secret about the fact that this administration is committed to cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. The president campaigned on that promise. Americans elected him on that promise, and he's actually delivering on it. And this is something that Democrats promised they would do for decades. President Trump is just the first president to get it done.
Let me ask you about the fraud, if I can. We can all have our own opinion about what is wasteful spending, and Republicans have praised the president for cutting wasteful spending, but fraud, of course, is a crime. So have you turned over evidence of fraud to the Justice Department, and when should we expect to see those indictments?
It's a clever question. First of all, I think all Americans would agree that funding mastectomies in Mozambique is not something that the American people should be funding, or DEI programs. I think it's fraudulent that the American government has been ripping off taxpayers in this way. And we also do know there has been extensive fraud, particularly if you look at Social Security. In fact, according to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there was $71 billion worth of fraud in one single fiscal year that we know about. And so that is a lot of fraud, Peter, that the government has admitted to. So this administration is committed to finding even more of that fraud, waste, and abuse.
To be clear, that $71 billion was from 2015 to 2022, so it wasn't in just 1 year, and it was
$71 billion.
But it wasn't in 1 year, just to be clear.
In one report.
And it was in one report over multiple years, from 2015 to 2022.
So are you defending $71 billion in fraud, Peter? That's a lot of money, far too much, and that's why this administration... Why is the media so against cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? I don't get it.
I just want to ask a question.
We won't be deterred. We will not be deterred from people like you and the press who are clearly adamantly opposed to cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. But we know that American taxpayers at home who have been struggling with an inflationary crisis don't want their tax dollars going towards crazy DEI programs in countries overseas, they also don't like the fact that there has been $71 billion worth of fraud in Social Security and improper payments going out the door. That's a problem that needs to be fixed. And President
The administration is pushing for accountability and reform, but there's a major obstacle: the media's tendency to focus on sensationalism or political points rather than the real issues. If you want to make real change, it starts with holding systems accountable, especially when billions of dollars are on the line. So, what's next? Will the media ever truly get behind cutting waste, fraud, and abuse? Or will they continue to deflect and divert attention away from these critical issues? I think we all know what needs to happen, but it's going to take time and persistent pressure from people like you to make it a reality. Alright, that wraps up today's discussion. I hope this gave you some insight into the ongoing debate about government spending, fraud, and the media's role in all of it. If you think it's time for real change, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and of course, subscribe for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.